Hello and welcome to another episode of the William Hill Square Ball podcast with myself, Dave McIntyre, and joined again in the co-host chair by Kerry's Darren O'Sullivan. How are we doing, Darren?
Good, Dave. Good to be back.
We've got a man who's way tougher than either you or I ever could have been or could ever hope to be on the football field in with us today. We've just got a brilliant guest lined up. Another legendary figure. We've been so lucky that the men who have been coming through this door in hurling and football over the last few weeks, it's just great after great, generational talents, one and all. And we're just privileged to be able to bring you these episodes on a week-to-week basis. If you are only joining us or just starting to discover the Square Ball podcast, there's so much for you to dip back into. There's only a couple of episodes in the archive that would have dated, and maybe little snippets of episodes here and there that you can just throw out, but listen to the bulk of the interview. Even this season alone, if you're into your hurling, the likes of Tommy Walsh and Paul Flynn, and we've had Owen Kelly from Tipperary. We've had Kieran Whelan. Give us some of the other names that we've had on the show this season.
Eamon McGee.
Episode a couple of weeks ago.
Canavan.
Peter Canavan. Like I say, the great players of their generation. Last week's episode, Cyril Farrell, a hurling legend and possibly the man who loves the game more than any on planet Earth. We have had a huge reaction to Cyril Farrell. He's such a beloved figure within Galway and across the rest of the country, so you can dip into that as well. Make sure you log onto our YouTube page if you're used to viewing the shows on a weekly basis. Subscribe, like it, leave a review. There was an awful lot of engagement over the last two episodes with Eamon and with Cyril in particular. You can also get us on our social media channels at William Hill Ireland on both Twitter and Instagram. A lot of other good sports content on there as well. And whatever your podcast app of choice is, make sure you're subscribed, be it Spotify or elsewhere. It means your feed will update automatically every week and the next episode will drop in. We've got 4 or 5 episodes left in season 2. The finishing line is just a distant way at the moment, but unfortunately it is starting to come within view. So today's episode is with one of the greats of the game of the last 30 years. Just want to give him his due, so I'm going to make sure that we give a proper intro to this man who was a polarising figure for all number of reasons. One of the great forwards of the last 30 years. He's a man who captained his county to their last All-Ireland win, which was 26 years ago. So you haven't seen his name in the bio at the very top already. That's just the first clue as to who this man might be. Glittering inter-county career that unusually spanned 3 different decades. A winner of 2 All-Stars, and adding in the extra distinction that one was in the backs and one was in the forwards. And I've been doing a bit of deep diving, and I don't think there was another player that has ever done that in football. There's been 3 or 4 hurlers that have done it. If anyone wants to correct me on that, whether you're looking at us on YouTube or listening to us, please do get in touch and let me know. He has endured some great days and some really dark days on and off the field. He is a Royal County legend. It is Meath's Graham Geraghty.
Glad to be here, Dave. Thanks for having me.
That intro took about 2 days to write. How are you? You're so welcome, and thanks a million for coming up.
I'm great, thank God, yeah. Good to see Darren as well.
You're looking well.
Keep the best side out.
We keep saying it, like when these guys walk in, especially these boys in their 50s, you still look like you could do a job. I want to delve into, obviously, what happened to you 5 years ago in a bit more detail later in the show.
Yeah.
But for a long time, you were the kind of the Meath man that most, or certainly a lot of non-Meath GA supporters loved to hate. A lot of that was down to the way you carried yourself, the blonde hair, the hairstyles, the kind of the back chat you'd give not just to players but to referees, or you'd throw a comment or two up to Hill 16 when it was full as well. And possibly because you were so bloody good and the amount of damage you did to championship aspirations of people's counties. But I remember the outpouring of sympathy when it emerged how ill you were and how close to death that you were, and the well wishes from people all over the country. And I'm going to quote your wife, Amanda. At the time, she said, "The family have been flooded with letters of support from people all over the world. I never knew Graham was so popular. None of the rest of us did either, Graham. I've had thousands of calls and texts. So I dealt with that by putting an update on Facebook each week." And I remember seeing those weekly updates from your wife. And it was just, each week was more positive than the last. And even though someone like myself who'd never met you, it was just kind of heartwarming to know that you were already on the road to recovery. But I'm just wondering, your perception of how you were perceived outside of Meath in those years, do you think it was softened a lot by what you went through 5 years ago?
I think it was. I suppose, like, over the years, as I said, it would have been kind of a villain when outside of Meath, and probably in parts of Meath as well. But I think when somebody is ill or somebody is sick like that, football is put aside and they probably just think about the person then. And I suppose, like, I had 4 kids as well, and like when I was in hospital, your main kind of focus goes to your children and family, and if that hadn't happened, you know, where things were going to be if you were gone, or you know, if you were left, that you weren't able to work or do anything. But yeah, no, obviously the support that I got from around the world as well, like for friends in America and Australia, and they were trying to get in touch, but obviously at the first couple of days I wasn't kind of able to do anything. And
did Amanda bring you through some of the correspondence in the weeks and months afterwards?
Well, yeah, and the funny thing is, because it was in COVID, there was no visitors allowed, so you were kind of isolated a bit and didn't know what was going on, you know, outside, apart from, you know, a couple of phone calls. But yeah, it was tough times. But like afterwards, then, you know, a couple of different letters that I got from people, and it was fantastic to read that and support that. I suppose you got through sport, you know. So it's we all you know, play a sport, and you know, obviously with Kerry down, you have kind of enemies around the country as well, and probably overseas that dislike you for different reasons. But obviously, when there's something seriously wrong, you know, the GA community come together, and it's fantastic to see that as well.
Well, I say to our viewers and listeners now, if you're joining us in a week's time or 2 weeks' time, what day is today? We're in the week of the All-Ireland Football quarterfinals. So you can fast forward for the next 10 minutes, because given that we have a Meath legend in the room, and you kind of walked in with a bit of a pep in your step, which I'm sure is the case for most men and women around the Royal County at the moment, because it's been a big year for Meath. I know they didn't get out of Division 2, but obviously beating Kerry and Dublin in the championship in the same years. Last time was 2008, I think. Tyrone managed to do it.
Yeah.
Meath taking on Galway this weekend. Firstly, what have you made of Meath's progress this year in year one under Robbie Brennan?
No, I think it's been fantastic, and I suppose a couple of players that Robbie's brought in as well, you know, have changed the dynamic of the team as well. But like we all know Robbie's record with Kilmacud, and it's been fantastic, and you know, it's probably the right man for the job at the time, and you know, he's brought the team on as well. Like, and I think the new rules have suited Meath as well. It allows them to play football, and obviously you don't have the mass defence now. So look, we have forwards that can score, and there's a fantastic buzz around the county, and I haven't seen it in years. And you know, as we spoke off air about the Dublin game, and like most of the kids that were at that game would never have seen Meath beat Dublin before, and there's just a buzz around the place, and you know, hopefully we'll be able to continue it beyond this weekend as well.
Do you we were chatting on the way in here, and I was saying about the new rules, and do you think it's taken that away from teams that, well, I suppose ability is the wrong word, that ability, I suppose, it's the only thing I can think of now, to go too defensive, like when Meath were playing Dublin over the last 10 years, it was a case of containment.
Yeah.
And because of new rules, it was a case of, it's forcing them to be that bit braver. I do think a lot of the counties who maybe fell by the wayside, they had the footballers there, but I don't know, were they playing with a bit of fear for the last couple of years, that a lot of the footballers probably stayed away because they weren't getting trusted, and the roles that they had weren't attacking roles. You weren't being brave. It was a case of, right, we get 12 behind the ball. So you didn't actually know how good forwards were in a lot of teams. We see with Meath and the way they annihilated Kerry as well.
Yeah.
A lot of these counties have the footballers there, and I think the fact that these new rules have come in, it's taken away the option of containment and being defensive. And I just think the game, like you were a forward, an attacking forward that was always looking to go at people. For me, I'm just loving it. And I'm just there every time a player gets a ball, and just go at a guy, and just be brave.
We'll go right back to the very first round of the Leinster Championship. Wicklow had Dublin and Ockram.
Yeah.
And just went after them.
Yeah.
Now, you've hit the nail on the head. If that's in Croke Park or Ockram 2 years ago, the Wicklow management, whether it was Oisin McConville or the crowd before him, do we go out and try and keep this to 15 points? Yeah. Or do we try and sow it to Dublin, potentially lose by 30? But that's not a discussion anymore.
Yeah, but we've seen this, especially, you know, over the last probably 7, 8, maybe 10 years, that teams were so defensive. Meath in particular were getting it very hard to break that down because, like, we didn't have big, strong, physical forwards, and it was hard for us to play against because there's more space there now. There's more running in the game, I suppose, especially for the forwards, and it's creating the space for particularly our forwards to, you know, show their skills and what they're made of.
When they leave Croke Park without the Leinster title, was there a fear that this is going to hit them really hard now, and that they're going to really struggle to get themselves off the canvas for the group stages.
Yeah, and like it was disappointing. I think the whole county as a whole were disappointed. Obviously, you know, there was elements of 2010 involved with Louth there as well. I don't think anybody begrudged Louth winning the game. You know, it's been a long time, but you could have had the fear there where they were going to drop off. Then they were after beating Dublin, they were on a high, and then lost out kind of. You know, with small margins in the Leinster final, but in fairness, they picked themselves up after that, and you know, it's fantastic to play against Dublin. Maybe Dublin weren't not the best. Obviously, you know, we've seen them improve since, but I think that game kind of kick-started the season for them, and you know, they've done really well in the group stages so far, and they've been unbeaten, and to beat Dublin, to beat Kerry, it's fantastic. And if you draw against Roscommon can be tough to play against. You know, they're probably not as good as they have been in previous years, but I suppose, and Darren, you know, that kind of winning mentality, you know, if you're winning games, it's easier to dig yourself out of those games where it's not going for you. So yeah, like, things have been brilliant in Meath for the last couple of weeks, and I think everybody's looking forward to the game the weekend.
It's so easy to construct an argument for Meath winning this game against Galway at the weekend, and equally, no one will be surprised if Galway ramp their performance levels up slightly more and beat Meath by 4 to 5 points. All 8 teams this weekend, you could argue, for them winning their games.
Have a chance, yeah. And I suppose that's the beauty of the championship now, because, as I said again, the way the new rules have like, you could be 8 points down and still in the game, whereas before, if you were, it was over, like, you know. But I remember the first round, Meath played Offaly, and we were 10 points down at half time, and I was with Michael Dignan at the game, and I said, "Geez, Mike, this game's over. Like, our lads were going in, the heads were down, and they came out, they got a couple of 2 points at the start of the second half, and all of a sudden it was game on, and they won, I think, by 9 points. You know, so it was a massive turnaround. Like, but
Down came out of the dressing room on Sunday in Park Esler. They were down by 10 and scored two 2-pointers and 1 point within 2.5 minutes. Suddenly the deficit is halved.
Yeah,
and the whole place comes alive.
And that's the beauty of the new rules, you know, and it's great for fans looking at it, that, you know, your team is never dead and buried, and if there's 2 or 3 points in it, you know, you could always see the game out. You can't afford to do that anymore, because 2 pointers and you know, you're ahead. So
well, give us your 4 winners from this Saturday and Sunday, and which of those 4 winners do you think would constitute the biggest shock?
Yeah, I suppose it's difficult to
So Meath, Galway.
Yeah,
Did you have to vote twice here? Once with your head, once with your heart?
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, I think Meath have a massive shout on Sunday or Saturday, or it's on Sunday. Yeah, but I think if Galway can hit the heights that we know they're capable of, I think they might edge it slightly now. But, you know, my heart says Meath, but my head will kind of have to go with Galway, hoping that I'm wrong. Obviously, I think, you know, the Armagh Kerry game is a massive game, so it is. You know, both of them, you know, can be hot and cold during the season as well. Kerry, kind of with their injuries, I think it's an uphill battle for them, but I think they're able to, you know, up their game from week to week, and like, there's no better team to be playing against in a quarter final than the Ireland champions, and to dethrone them. So I think Kerry might edge that one.
Wow, I haven't heard any shouts for Kerry this week.
Yeah,
what are you thinking?
So
your old mucker Darragh O'Shea had them written off there heading into the last weekend's game against Cavan.
Darren and Jack were trading digs there for.
Do you want to enter that fight?
No, I'm staying out of it. No, like that, I'd be a bit like Graham there with the Meath Galway game, kind of head and heart, and I'd never write off Kerry, and they're not going well, and they have a lot of injuries, and they will have a few back this weekend, but who's going to be back? But
yeah,
getting to Croke Park does seem to light something in Kerry footballers, and it is more in hope at the moment because our form hasn't been good. I do think Armagh have been very good, but it is one of the ones, as a Kerry supporter, you're living in hope that they can turn it on. And I keep saying the obvious, with David Clifford, you always have a chance.
Always have a chance, yeah.
Well, I'd be like you guys with Meath Galway. I think it's a 50-50 game, particularly if Meath can get their 2-point merchants into the right places. I'm happy to ride off Kerry, and it's mainly because they are becoming increasingly, in my opinion, my totally uneducated opinion, is sharing a room with you two, so reliant on Clifford. Like, he gets 3-7 at 320 at the weekend.
Yeah.
And I know Paddy coming back to fitness will help him get more ball, but I just think if Armagh managed to shut down either or both the Cliffords, Kerry won't find a way of winning the game without Geeney, without O'Connor. It's what the injuries are killing them.
And I suppose Paddy not having real game time either.
Or Shawnee.
Crow Park's a massive place when you're not fully fit as well. It'll be difficult for them, but you know, it's, as Darren says, like, Kerry love coming to Crow Park, and they seem to up their game as well. And like, I remember when I was playing as well, all you wanted to do was get into Crow Park, and it's a different atmosphere. You play different, and the crowd around you, and be a massive crowd there for that game. And I think, like, it's after the Meath game. I think a lot of people will stay around for that game because it's an All-Ireland final.
Oh, it could be epic.
We're hoping
you have to be a proper fool to write Kerry off.
We're hoping the Meath fans
just
stay
what
around.
I'm trying to do.
We're hoping they all stay, the Meath fans, because at least we'll have a bit more green and gold around the place.
See, there's a real panic in Kerry, isn't there, that you're going to be totally upstaged by Armagh? David Clifford saying it after the game, we need Kerry people to travel. When did Kerry people last travel for an All-Ireland quarter-final?
The Dublin game in 2009, I'd say.
Yeah.
But
another year they were totally written off.
There is a bit of worry, like, because last year's game against Armagh, I genuinely believe it was the supporters got Armagh over the line. It like those, like, but you can't get a train up, you can't get a bus up, you can't get a flight up. So you'll be hoping that there will be a good show in there.
Let's run through the other two real quick. Donegal, Monaghan.
Donegal. I think they're probably the informed team at the minute, and Michael Murphy is playing fantastic. I think he's the cog in the wheel there that keeps everything going. If that happens to him, they could be in big trouble. But Monaghan, like every other northern team, they're tough to play against, and grit and determination. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they overturned them either. But I think Donegal will win that one.
And then Dublin, Tyrone.
I think that's probably the toughest one.
It is a proper 50-50, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like Tyrone, they can be brilliant. Like we've seen Dublin as well, like the struggle against Meath. They have progressed and got a lot better since then. I think back into Crow Park, I think they'll overturn Tyrone. I think they have a bit of steeliness back again, and I suppose like Conn will probably back the weekend, hopefully, and that's probably something that Dublin supporters want to see.
One word, Monaghan or Donegal?
Leaning Donegal, but
either way,
I think there could be an upset. Yeah.
Dublin, Tyrone.
I'm leaning towards Tyrone just because of Dara Canavan and McCurry. I just think the two boys are better forwards than what Dublin have. And a bit like Kerry, I don't think Conor Callan's going to be 100%. And
again, those two could really come alive in Croke Park as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's the end of the championship chat. So we're going to get back to memory lane now. I guess you played everything as a child, did you? Because, like, reading up on your life, brilliant athlete. I think you're still the reigning under 850 meter national record holder.
Pride of place on the mantelpiece.
I think the reason for that is because it doesn't exist anymore. But,
so they can never take that away from you.
No.
Obviously played AIL with Buccaneers, had a trial for Arsenal, played League of Ireland with Drogheda United, and clearly like one of the best forwards of your generation as well. So as a child, were you just into everything?
Yeah, I was. I think like growing up, like my father was involved with sport as well, my mother as well, and we were involved with the athletic club obviously in Centrestown as well. So there was really nothing else for us growing up. There was no iPads, very little on TV so come home from school, the bag was thrown in the corner, you're out then. So I grew up in a house and so there was always loads of lads around to play football or to play soccer or to play something. Like, I mean, the only thing I didn't play growing up was hurling, because we were in a pocket of the same league that there was no hurling. It was all kind of on the other side of the county. But and I suppose I have to kind of lend that to my parents as well. They put us into everything and they brought us everywhere. So I think it was their love for sport that kind of got us involved in it as well.
You talk about the buzz that's around the county at the moment. You're 13 when Joe Castles is walking up the steps of the Hogan stand and lifting the Leinster title in 1986.
Yeah.
And that's Meath's first provincial championship since the early 70s. And that kickstart obviously this unbelievable spell of 16 years. Meath go on to win 4 All-Irelands, to win 8 Leinster titles. So at 13, how moulded are you by what you're witnessing in that year? Obviously losing to Kerry in the semi-final, but then the years that followed.
It was always something that you wanted to do. But I go back kind of nearly before that, because in 84, the Centenary Cup final against Monaghan, that was the first game I was at. And it was sitting in the home stand and the buzz around the place, and it was fantastic. And
was that a big deal at the time?
Oh, it was huge, yeah. It was, especially for Meath, because they hadn't won anything for years. Like, and you know, I was looking, I says, I'd love to do this sometime, you know. And then when Meath did start progressing, then like in '86, Kerry beat us, I think, in the semi-final that year as well. And then so you had '87, '88, and like they were fantastic years for us. Like probably the golden years, really. Like from '86 up to '91, you were involved in everything. You know, you were contesting probably.
And were you up at all those games?
Yeah. I remember, and I don't know where the tickets came from, because my dad had a van from work, and there was 20 of us piled into the back of it. Like
health and safety not an issue.
No, it wasn't even seats in it. But it was fantastic going up, and I think probably if Meath had to win that All-Ireland 91, would have been probably one of the best All-Irelands ever, like because of all the games, the 4 games against Dublin, and you know, nearly lost out to Wicklow, nearly lost out to Roscommon, you know, and it was, and then
they played 10 games that year.
10 games, yeah, and then like down were 10 points up, I think, at half time, and to get it back then to a point, I think they lost out with 2 in the finish, but like we all thought the comeback was on, but it was just a little step too far, kind of, you know. And
10 games in a pre-qualifier, pre-group stage championship is eye-watering.
Oh, it's massive, yeah. And I suppose it took a lot probably out of the players as well, like then, because, you know, obviously I'm not saying they weren't as fit, but the training was different. The lads kind of more so than now, they probably had, you know, jobs that intended to go out farming or whatever, like, you know, so probably toughened them up as well. But you know, it was great times though to be a Meath supporter.
But you go so quickly from being a Meath supporter to being a Meath player. Like, you're obviously in the thick of it in 1990. You win the All-Ireland minor title. Yeah. On a day the seniors are there as well, which I always think must have been unbelievable to be a minor. I know Meath didn't win that game against Cork, but for Croke Park probably to be half full, 3/4 full for the most of that game must have been amazing.
Actually, you know, when the game starts, there's probably maybe 20,000, maybe 25,000 in it, and then you come back out after half time and it's practically, it's nearly full, like, and then by the end of the game, like the buzz and the atmosphere is like fantastic. But to play in front of the senior team was brilliant, because there was a huge Meath crowd there then. But I always remember then afterwards we went back to the Grand Hotel Malahide, and you're looking to, and they were after the beaten. They were obviously deflated as well, but in fairness to them, they did give good time to the minor team as well, and that was good to see. And then,
are you wary of celebrating in those circumstances? You want to let the hair down, obviously, and
yeah, I suppose we were a little bit aware, kind of, that they were, you know, down in the dumps, and we were. I suppose a lot of us were still underage. We weren't drinking, you know.
A couple of sneaky ones,
but it was fantastic, and I suppose like we had a good minor team. I think we had like 54 or something, like training sessions and games, which
on
was
the panel.
No, but I mean like training sessions and games, kind of, right, which was a lot probably that time, you know. And I always remember we used to always play in the Northeastern League, so all our pre-season was against northern teams, which kind of toughened us up a bit, and probably set the scene for a lot of the lads for the future.
So it's October of 91 when Boylan brings you into the panel for the first time. And this, again, as you just have described, that's on the back of the 4-game epic against the Dubs, and get another run to an All-Ireland final. So you're sharing a dressing room at the age of, what are you, 19?
Yeah.
Mick Lyons is there, and Harnan and Foley and O'Rourke and Liam Hayes and Beggy and Stafford and Bernard Flynn. Like, I know you were a confident fella anyway, and you always looked that way when you were on the field. At least you never looked like you were going to take a step back. Was there enough confidence and inbuilt belief in you to be able to believe, I'm supposed to be here? Or are you looking around at these greats of the game?
I think there was, because the previous year Sean had brought me in 1990. He had brought me in that time. The season started in, or at October, and then you played a couple of league games till Christmas. So he brought me in for that period, and I remember years later then, and I says, why didn't you keep me that time? Why did you bring me in?
Did you play any league games?
No,
Right.
I didn't. I just was in training, and he says, I just wanted to bring you in and give you a taste of, what was to come or what was it like. So, but yeah, going in, and obviously you were nervous going in because all these greats and lads you looked up to over the years. But I remember it was funny, the first time I went in, I was sitting down, and you put your bag down, I was getting my boots out of the bag and had the head down and just minding my own business. And I seen these 2 feet then standing in front of me. I said, oh Jesus, who's this? Looked up, and it was Liam Harnan, right? And he'd walk through the wall there, so he would, and he goes, that's my seat. They just grabbed me. I said, okay. And I was standing up and says, where am I going to sit now? Are you going to sit in Colm O'Rourke's seat or Bernard Flynn's seat or wherever it was? But like Liam was kind of one of those lads that you revered and you kind of stayed away from because...
But you could say that about half that squad. Like,
yeah.
What was it? Did they go easy on... I know you were a back at the time, but... Like, would the forwards have got an easy ride in training from a Mick Lyons or like a Liam Harnan or PJ Gillick, these boys?
There was war in training. There was more fights, I think, in training than anything else. Like, when I think Sean would probably like Cody, when he was training, he'd throw the ball in and that was it. Like, we no free unless somebody lost a finger or something or whatever. But, and there could be lads fighting off the other end of the field because you have to remember, they were kind of, I suppose they were coming to the tail end of that brilliant team, but there were still lads fighting for places and wanted to play, and you were after coming off the back of an All-Ireland defeat, and obviously a couple of lads were taking a break and taking the winter off, but
someone like if you come in as a wing back or a centre back, you're looking to take the place of a Martin O'Connell or a Liam Harnan or a Colm Coyle. So they're not just going to stand by and open the door for you to come in and just swan around the place.
And I was probably lucky enough that Kevin Foley had, and I think Terry Ferguson, they had took that winter break, and so I got those games.
Right.
I was playing wing back, so in Kevin Foley's place, like so. And then when he came back, then he was in straight away, and I said, "That's not fair."
I'm fascinated by that because I went into the dressing room at a young age as well, and it's a real grounding experience when you kind of go in and you're. My tends a bit cocky old, kind of fancy hair, I had longer hair then as well. Bandy highlights, thought I was cool.
Graham's managed to keep hold of his.
Yeah, well, I'm clutching here.
Yeah.
But I just found it, you go in one guy, and then as soon as you get in the door, it's like you just shrink. Yeah. You're looking around at these heroes, and like you said, I hope I'm not in the wrong seat, or I hope. And like that, it's something I never thought of because I didn't see myself as a threat. They probably did. Oh, he's coming from my place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're there, why isn't he friendlier to me?
Yeah.
But
like it wasn't kind of easy for me either because, like that, as you said earlier on, I have a big mouth, and I didn't
say that.
It was after one.
I think you did. You insinuated it.
Yeah, in the long way around it. But I had an incident with Bernard Flynn. Bernard Flynn would be one of my good mates now, like. And we have different versions of the story ourselves. Like anyway, we're in a nightclub and they were after playing Leash, and we were playing. I think we were playing the same day, maybe not. But anyway, Bernard had a pub down in Leash at the time, but he I think Dempsey, whoever's marking him, got sent off, or he gave Bernard the dig and he got sent off. But I was obviously trying to make chat to them. In the nightclub, there was 5 or 6 of them out, and we'd up anyway. Probably had a few drinks on me at this stage, and I had said to him, "Oh, how are you have to say, Andy, black eyes," and he kind of took offence to what, and I was trying to break dice and try and be buddies with these lads, and then I went in and none of them would talk to me like so. You had Martin O'Connell, Terry Ferguson, Stafford, and Bernard. I think Terry Ferguson might have been there as well, and. Not that they weren't talking, but they were kind of, keeping their distance and saying, "Listen, you need to sort this out." And I was in going to the toilet, and Colm O'Rourke stood in beside me. Yeah, did you have words with Flynn? And I says, "No, why?" He says, "Well, I think you better apologise." He says, "So I don't think I ever did, but
Was it a welcoming dressing room?
it was to a certain extent. But like as you said, you're in there. You know, I was looking to get a place. They were obviously trying to hang on to theirs, and I was no threat to the forwards at the time because I was obviously a back. I played all my football kind of centre back at underage, and I think as well they were probably delighted to see young talent coming in as well that wanted to play and wanted to better the team. I think they seen that as well, so they kind of quickly came around when they seen that I was putting in the effort and giving the same focus that they were given. And like all I wanted to do when I was a kid was to play for Meath, and when I got the chance, I was going to take it.
So you follow up that minor All Ireland in 90 with the under 21 All Ireland in 93. You win an All Star in 94, but that's also the year that Arsenal have a scout who wants to have a word with you and send you over to North London for a trial.
Yeah.
So how close do you actually come to being a professional footballer?
I don't think I was probably that close. I played a couple of games over there, trained with them.
So you're 22 at this stage, which is obviously very old
it's very
to be heading across.
Over, yeah. And the first game I played, I was playing right full, and got the ball up the field, and there was nothing on, so just let fly for about 30 yards and hit the crossbar and the corner of the crossbar and the post. And I was just, if that went in now, it'd be, it'd be a different story. But and then I played midfield in the second game. Obviously, I hadn't played a massive amount of I played with Kensington Rovers, and I wasn't the best footballer or soccer player ever. But my first touch probably wasn't brilliant, and that's what let me down initially. I think over there. Because I was fit, I was good in the air, and I was able to get up and down the pitch, and I think that's what they liked about it, that I was a defender that was able to get up and get back. But that all came about through an interview with Alex Ferguson after the game, because he was at that Dublin game. But I remember we were after playing championship match somewhere again. It was underage, under 21, and I was staying in Navan in the Beachfront Hotel, and the phone rang in the room. And next to me, my father was on the phone. I said, "How do you even know I was here?" I said, So he said, "You better get home here quick. There's a scout coming from Arsenal to talk to you." And I was like, "Jesus, right." So I went home, and
I watched that interview with Ferguson, and he didn't even name check you because he couldn't remember your name. But he said, "Oh, the number 6, the blonde fella, great athlete." Do you think this Arsenal scout and this trial came about purely because Alex Ferguson mentioned you?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Because I hadn't been playing.
So no one saw you?
No.
It's mad.
That is mental.
Yeah.
It's just so alien nowadays.
Yeah.
And then the phone rang then. Before I went to Arsenal, there was a couple of weeks in between, and I was at home in the house one day, and my mum says to me, "Oh, there's someone on the phone for you," and it was Des Scattle, the race commentator. And she's Des, and I said, Des Scattle. And then I said, "Who's that?" And next when I heard him talking, then I knew who it was. So he was good friends with Brian Robson, and he was at Middlesbrough. And he said, "Are you interested in taking a phone call from Brian Robson? He wants to chat to you about maybe coming over." I said, "Yeah, no problem." But I never got a phone call after that, so I went to Arsenal then. But
didn't Total go over in similar circumstances? Into his 20s to United?
Yeah, he went to United. He went probably about a month before I went.
Right, they were right on top of each other.
Yeah. So
he had already won the All Ireland, so he must have been 23, 24 at the time.
He'd be a couple of years older than me, so he was.
You wouldn't hear about that now.
No, it's honestly, but it's gas too when you're hearing that you're off in a hotel and you're ringing the hotel.
Yeah.
How do you know I'm here? And then they're ringing the house phone. It's just, it's amazing.
Yeah. With no mobiles.
Imagine the parents ringing. Brian Robson's going to be ringing you there in a while.
Yeah.
My God.
And, my dad is a United fan, and he was, I think at the time he had maybe wrote a letter to Alex Ferguson to see could I go over there, you know. And then with Brian Robson going to ring, so he was obviously one of his heroes, kind of, when he was playing. But there was great excitement. But I'm real homeboard as well. I was then probably, but And nearly all I wanted, I was there a couple of weeks, and you're left on your own basically. I was staying in digs with this couple, and everybody I suppose does their own thing at training. You go in and you train away, and then you head off. A lot of them are going golfing or going racing or whatever. I went up to, I think, the fella that was looking after, kind of doing the scout and everything. I says, listen, what story are you keeping me or not? Because a friend of mine was getting married, I think, up at the following weekend. So he says, you're very fit, you're good in the air, and your first touch probably let you down and whatever. So that was the end of it. But at the time, they were looking to replace Lee Dixon at right full, and sure, he played on for years after that, but it was great to even play alongside him. Yeah. We were in a dressing room kind of the size of this. There was 4 or 5 lads in it, and Ray Parler was, sitting beside me. And
you doing good crack.
Yeah. And Eddie McGoldrick was there at the time, the Irish player, and he was.
But who knows, Graham, what road you would have gone down if you ended up in a dressing room with Tony Adams, Ray Parler, Paul Merson.
Yeah.
I mean,
this would be a different interview.
But the thing is, there
was a certain culture in the place at the time.
You were training with all these guys, and and it was a fantastic experience. And I suppose years after them, Paul Merson put in his book when they asked him who was the fittest player he ever seen, he says, this guy that came over from Ireland, he says, Graham Geraghty. And they were having a laugh at it in the dressing room. And Colin Kyle says to me, and at the time he was on drugs, he says. It probably was around the same time. But, yeah.
What was it actually like going back into the Meath dressing room? Would it have been all questions? Would the boys have been, I'm blown away by this.
Yeah.
Imagine taking off to go over to a soccer game and then coming back to the GA dressing room.
And I suppose to a certain extent for me, it was kind of like, there was that failure as well, kind of that you didn't make it, or you weren't there longer or whatever. But once you were back training a couple of nights, that was the end of it. Then it was gone, But
well, I knew this was going to be a problem because we've been chatting to you for half an hour and we're still stuck in 1994. And I was adamant when the producers spoke to you, we're going to need a 5-parter here to get through Graham Geraghty's career, but they've only limited us to 1, Graham. So we're going to try and move things on. 1996, Sean has moved into the forwards at this stage. It's obviously a memorable year for so many reasons. You and your first Leinster title, your first All-Ireland medal, the 2 games at Mayo and everything that went with that. We'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah.
But I know you lost a childhood friend as well that year in just truly tragic circumstances. The weekend of the Leinster final win over Dublin, who were the reigning All-Ireland champions at the time. So talk to us about your friend and the impact it had on you, how you continued to concentrate on the football.
Yeah, so his name was Leslie Crendon, and he was from Slane, and I met him in secondary school, so we were in the same class, and we just kind of hit it off, and he was a fantastic footballer, soccer player as well, and we just had great fun. They moved then closer to where I lived, so we kind of seen a good bit of him at the weekends as well, and they had tragic circumstances as well, where his brother was knocked down off his bike by a car, and it never stopped. But he lived, but he was he was very badly injured and is in a wheelchair now since. But my sister rang me, and I think it was the Saturday morning, and she says Leslie was killed in a car crash, and It didn't hit me. I just said, okay, right, and put the phone up, because I was in my wife's house at the time, and it was only when I was after, I was just sitting there, and she says, "Yeah, all right," and she says, and she didn't wouldn't have known him really well. I says, Sandra says Leslie's after being killed last night, so yeah, he was obviously getting the lift home. He was out in Slane and got a lift home with a friend of his who was going the opposite way that Leslie was going, but he was getting his uniform for work. He was trained to be a guard, and brought him home. On the way back in, then the car crashed and overturned, and he was killed. He was the only one in the car that was killed. And he had a lift home. That was the unfortunate thing about it. He was waiting for a lift home. And it's just tragic circumstances, really, and Well, I had to kind of just put that at the back of my mind and played the game, and obviously it went home straight afterwards, and then you kind of really only start grieving then kind of after that, really. But
how soon after the full-time whistle goes and like you've just dumped out the All-Ireland champions, how soon after the whistle goes do your memories return, or does your mind return to him straight away?
I didn't even go back with the team.
Okay.
Amanda was waiting for me, so we just after the shower, I left and went down to the family. But the hardest thing probably was, and Darren, if you're standing in Croke Park and the national anthem plays, and then all these things start flooding into your mind, and I suppose, like, if you can look back to even last year, like Matthew Costello lost his dad as well, and he played and it's so tough, like, and to lose, a parent as well that's that close, it just beggars belief what players can go through. But
is football though? It's just well-worn cliche. Is football a nice distraction for you though?
It is, yeah. And I suppose football was a distraction over the years for me as well, because I was an only son growing up, so I had nothing to do with the girls in the house. Like, I had nothing in common with. Although they all ran and played sport, it was you were always getting out, the lads, and then getting out to play football, and it kind of kept you going growing up when you were a kid.
It's interesting you mentioned the national anthem. It's actually when you're playing football and preparing for something, your mind just solely focused. But for that couple of minutes for the national anthem, that's all. It's like time stands still, and that's when so much actually runs through your head before a game.
So what kind of stuff are you thinking about?
It could be anything. Like I was lucky I didn't have anything too tragic going on or anything, but you'd always think about your family and your friends and where football's gone. You think about who they're sitting beside in the stadium, and I hope they don't have to listen to too much abuse about me today or whatever. But you'd think about more them than yourself, and whatever it is about that couple of minutes, that's when it just, you can't help yourself. You think,
and once the game is on,
when the game's on, it's out of your mind no matter what's going on. But it is them couple of minutes. It's like the world stops and your brain is on overdrive. I used to
think some of my two aunts, they went to every game, and God help anybody around. If they said that with me, they'd nearly kill them. So,
there must have been a lot of
I'd say they were fighting the whole time.
No, that was too easy. 3 weeks after you lose your friend and you win that Leinster title, you're playing an All-Ireland semi-final against Tyrone, who were beaten in that final the previous year. The whole Peter Canavan picking the ball off the ground and all that, which we brought Peter through in grainy detail 3 or 4 weeks ago now. So go back and listen to the Peter Canavan episode of the Square Ball. But you scored 1-4 that day. And I watched the highlights of that game this morning. Like, elite sports people, they talk about these really rare, possibly singular occasions in their careers where they just feel like they're in the zone. And every decision they make is the right one. And every ball they go for breaks their way. Was that one of those days?
Yeah, and like, I suppose going up to that game, we were given no chance, really. Like, I suppose all year we were given no chance. But no, it's, as you said, every ball drops in your favour. Every ball you kick goes where it's supposed to go, and you can do nothing wrong. I think the only thing probably that I done wrong that day was the hand pass to Barry Callan for the goal that he got. I nearly killed him off the post. So, but it was just one of those days everything went right. Like, it's probably the best game I ever played. And yourself down when you're playing a game then as well. You never feel tired. When you're playing well, you never feel tired. You can run and run and run all day. And I suppose the opposite then happened to me then in the final, where nothing went right for me,
Put Pat Holmes on you.
At Holmes, my wife called him super glue because he was stuck to me all day. But I started off well and I got a point, but then that was it. Like, I gave Tommy Dowd the pass for the goal, but it was non-existent after that, really. And
then obviously there's the famous bounce point from Colm Coyle to get you guys out of jail and give you another day out. And as much as 96, the replay will be remembered for Meath winning that All-Ireland, your first All-Ireland, obviously it's totally superseded by the row.
Yeah.
Where I was trying to pick you out, looking through the row all over again. You pop up here and there. I don't think you threw a real serious punch at anyone.
Not right. Maybe one I said that was with it, and it was probably because But yeah, listen, it probably shouldn't have happened. And like, I suppose if you look at it, there was more lads swinging and throwing legs and whatever, but no one really got, I think.
There was John Casey, the only guy who got a proper dig.
Yeah. And I think that was it. Everyone else was pulling and dragging and running around. Yeah, it was disappointing, and it was probably ugly scenes to see as well. And that's one thing, probably, if you talk about the Ireland 96, that's the one thing that comes up. Like, but I think it was so funny kind of that night on the Sunday game. And Pat Spillane he was new to the game as well. And she was on with Jimmy McGuinness, and he was like Michael Flatley. And I think Jimmy took it to heart, and he met him a few years later, I think, and kind of said it to him. But
didn't they break it down like frame by frame?
Slow motion, yeah.
Have you ever watched that on YouTube?
No.
Have a look at it. It's like dissecting a match, but they dissect the row.
Yeah.
And they go through clip by clip. And now you can see Graham Geraghty here, and he throws a punch at this fella here. And then if we just move it on there, it's absolutely...
And here's Darren Fay trying to dislocate John Casey's head. You know?
It's just incredible to watch. And Pat does it so well, the character that he is.
Yeah.
But did Meath people, and did you guys as players, and this was, with all due respect to Colm Coyle, who got put off the field, a Meath great, who had like a 16-year career and won 3 All-Irelands.
Yeah.
When Pat McEnany sends him off and Liam McHale off, is there a recognition amongst you guys, this is not... Everyone's equal, but some people are more equal than others.
Yeah.
Like their talisman has been put off this field.
Yeah.
And this is a huge blow to them.
Yeah. Oh, massive. And I don't want to say Liam McHale was a bigger loss than Colm Coyle, because obviously he's not. Colm Coyle is one of the really greats over the year and a club man of mine. But yeah, obviously was. I think, you know, in their minds, they were saying our main man is gone now, and he had a brilliant first game, you know. So, but like to add to that, I was in Australia then after that, and Pat McEnany was the Irish referee, and we were having a drink one night in the bar, and we were just chatting about it. And I said, it made me ask, why did you send off, the 2 lads? And he says, I was coming down to send off John McDermott and Liam McHale. And I says, why them 2? Like, they're the 2 biggest men on the pitch, he says.
It was as arbitrary as that.
And I think it was the fact that McHale, probably because he ran in from a distance and was seen jumping into it. So he said, we send off their midfielder and have to send off Meath's midfielder, and it's even. But then he says, the referee told him, this is Kyle has to go. So, or the umpire. And I think...
So was the belief that Coyle was one of the few people who actually deserved to go? Because if you're abiding by the rules in this fight, like it's 5 versus 5 for the remainder of the game.
Yeah, yeah.
Certainly judging by today's interpretation of the rule book.
Well, I remember waking up, we were staying in the Burlington, there's a paper underneath the door, and there was a picture of me on the front of the sports section, and I kind of had one hand out like this, and my eyes are shut, and I think it was Ray Dempsey was coming to give me a slap, and it looks like I had my 2 fingers in his eyes. But when I opened my eyes, he was gone.
Destroying our studio here. Continue talking, Greg.
When I opened my eyes, Ray Dempsey wasn't there. Colm Coyle was after coming across the goals and absolutely took him out with a haymaker, and the linesman or the umpire was looking straight at him. So I think that's why he got sent off. Yeah,
and it's not like me taking total control of the game. Darren's just doing some running repairs here. This is why he gets paid the big bucks.
Yeah.
If our listeners can hear the rustling going on in the background, but your second All Ireland, I imagine, was even more special because you're the captain. And at this stage of your career, there's a reputation that's following you around. Bit of a talker, bit of a hothead. Opponents trying to get into you, Hill 16 getting into you, but it's not like you're a shrinking violet and are not giving it back in equal doses. And there's a couple of red cards, a couple of kind of rash kickouts at people.
Yeah.
I remember one in particular against Kildare where you kind of get your marching orders for throwing a kick at a player. Does Sean pick you because you are one of the true leaders in the team? Or is some of it down to him thinking, well, maybe he'll wise up a little, maybe strive to be a better example to some of the younger players if I give him the captaincy?
Yeah, I think probably a bit of both, I'd say. You were kind of well established at that time. Probably a lot of it was to give me that focus that I have to kind of lead by example. And we had a guy, Brian Smith, and he kind of I suppose he was like a shrink at the time, even though he wasn't. But I used to meet him sometimes for coffee, and he says, what, when someone's annoying you or someone's pulling you, he says, what goes through your mind for those 2 or 3 seconds? And I started nothing, just pure rage, kind of whatever. And he said, can you not just like count to 3? And I was looking at him. I says, what planet are you on? But yeah, I kind of just took it into my head that year that I says, listen, I need to just kind of focus a bit more, saying nothing to the referees. I don't get involved with anybody. Now, I don't say it didn't happen. I think I got a yellow card that year. I think maybe that was about it. But yeah, it was probably a bit of bolt by Sean, kind of just we need this lad on the field, need him focused, and give him something else to think about as well.
Would there be a worry though that this was something that was always said about Wayne Rooney, that or Cantona, if you take that edge away, you're taking a bit of their personality, their character away.
Yeah, and that's what he did say to me as well. He's like, but he said, "Listen, we need you on the field, we need you, but we don't want to take what makes you the player you are. That you have that bite, you have that edge, you always play on the line, and." He said, we don't want to take that out of you, but we want you on the field as well. So, yeah.
Were you targeted from bursting through as this blonde bombshell minor from centre half back to leading this Meath team all the way up? There probably was a target on your back, was there?
I think so. And I suppose a lot of it was my own doing as well, really, where you said you'd be getting involved with players on the field. And it did happen over the years that you'd be, because you were a forward as well and you were a decent player, there was always going to be a target on your back, and there were always going to be lads watching. Yourself, Darren, as well, when you're playing against Cork as well, as a lad coming, standing on your toes or kicking you on the heels or digging you. There's always going to be that anyway, and that's kind of what I suppose aggravated me a small bit, where if you're playing in full forward, like, the full back is always there behind and he's digging you and pulling you, and then if you do that and then you're caught, so it's that's why I kind of really can answer referees well. It's like, why are you picking on me? He's at it as well, and obviously he's a bit more clever than me. He doesn't get caught.
Would you have trained like that as well? Or would it be, would things have annoyed you at training?
I was just going to make that point there. So Cormac Murphy played corner back for us, and he just scored. He was a good footballer, but he wasn't a fantastic footballer. He was a spoiler as well, and I was marking him in training one time, and he kicking me and pinching me, and I said, "What are you doing?" And he's saying nothing, and he kicked me again, and I said, "You're supposed to do that again." I says, "I'm going to give you a slap. You're going to get this in the game." He says, "Come on, you're going to have to take it." He says, and I said, "Oh, right."
He's probably right though, wasn't
he? Well, he was. There was a method in his madness. Yeah.
And he's probably priming himself for whoever it is that he was going to be on that weekend as well.
So he was kind of he's one of those cornerbacks that was just totally focused on what he had to do, and that was to stop Darren Sullivan scoring, or stop him getting the ball.
And if you were to meet him in a club championship match later that year, would the same sort of be
going
on?
Oh, he'd probably be the first lad that you go out and he'd be looking to give you a slap,
I actually think it would have annoyed me more. It used to annoy me more in training than in the game. Or something. You'd be like, "It's training, would you?"
Yeah.
Fuck off. And I would have often been like, "Do that one more time," and you're getting a slap. And you'd always get the comment, "You can't do that in the game." You're like, "I can do it at training."
Yeah. I'm not going to get sent off here. There's a question I want to ask you, Graham, about just the kind of talent that you were as a player. In that final against Cork, it's a really good young Cork team. You scored 3 points, 1 off your right, 2 off your left. Your range of passing, your vision, your ability to pick passes out that other people couldn't see. I often feel that because of how you were perceived as a character, and as confrontational and as hot-headed, and the hairstyles and the mouthiness, I don't think you ever got the credit. Now, this might make you feel uncomfortable. Maybe, Darren, you can come in on it. I don't think you ever got the credit for the footballer that you were. The actual sheer talent, two-footed, athletic, great vision, brilliant range of passing.
Yeah, possibly. I never looked at it like that, kind of. I didn't really. I kind of played for myself and played for the team, and that's really all that mattered. Outside that, if you got compliments, it was nice, But I suppose the player that I was, as you says, you were always kind of controversial. So lads probably, even you'd see comments on the Sunday game that night, and they were always picking out the negative end of it as well.
But Trevor Giles got all the plaudits for being the stylist. You had every bit the skill that he had and the ability to do things that most footballers couldn't do, but no one ever spoke about you in those terms.
Yeah, I suppose like Trevor's probably a different player, and I kind of, when I was in the back, you were going around following lads the whole time, trying to get them a dig and take the ball off them, or else get up the field. And when you're playing kind of in the half forward line, I know Trevor played there as well, but Trevor was a fantastic playmaker. Where I was kind of slightly different. You were trying to get on the end of stuff the whole time, and listen, you might not got the recognition, but you got it where it counted. With your own teammates and so the fans in Meath as well. But I suppose like you don't play to get plaudits. You play to win trophies and medals. And
I would have always thought the negative stuff from opposition, especially, was more of a compliment anyway.
Oh yeah,
and any player like you that was direct and wasn't afraid to show character was always going to split opinions. And opposition fans, you'd be the player they love to hate. They're never going to give you the credit you deserve. And I actually often find you'd have certain players that I suppose they're not controversial. They're very clean cut and loved by everyone.
Yeah,
there's a few players then that are always kind of provoking the opposition, whether it be being direct or having the bit of smart talk back, and they never tend to get the universal credit that they deserve. But a lot of it is because
I love playing against Dublin, because you got, particularly when you're playing at the Hill 16, like the abuse you were getting, what these guys feed off that.
And you hear individual remarks.
Oh, you would,
from a heaving Hill 16, they can get to you there.
Yeah. It's amazing. Like it's just a buzz, and then you can hear. I won't say just what they were saying. But it's you often get the odd comments. I remember my friend growing up, Kevin Clark, we were the same, I'm 2 days older than him. We live in the same estate, and like there was at the time probably 65,000-70,000 in Crow Park, and all of a sudden you just hear this voice. It was him like shouting out at me, and I was, that's Clarky, like.
That's brilliant.
But it's you just hear. You always seem to hear you don't hear the good things.
No,
you hear the bad things.
It's like social media today. You never remember the nice thing that someone said about you.
But would the comments from the Hill, I think I would love them kind of hostile environments as well, and I wouldn't be able to help it but smile and smirk.
Oh yeah,
you get energy from the negative stuff, and as soon as you can do something that'll quieten them a small, but it gives you even more energy. Because like I've seen some of the celebrations in front of the Hill, it was like that. You go to Crow Park, you enjoy it. It's kind of, you're nearly enjoying the, I wouldn't call it banter off the crowd, but the abuse off the crowd as well. It's part of the show.
And I remember one game in particular, we were playing Dublin, and someone threw money out of a coin, and it landed near enough to me. I picked it up and I put it in my sock, and I just went like that. And I never could. They might have even seen if I said now, But
there's so much I want to get to, and a lot that I won't manage to get to. So I'm going to throw a few things at you over the next few minutes. After that All-Ireland win, a couple of weeks later, you're in Australia through the International Rules Series. You probably know where I'm going with this, but it's just something I feel that has been held against you for too long. You make a racist remark to one of the Australian lads in a warm-up match for the Test Series at the International Rules, and it's like one heat of the moment remark, one comment, and it's, I don't know if it's still to this day. Maybe your illness 5 years ago was maybe diluted a bit, but you were just branded as Graham Geraghty the racist. For years, and because of one stupid moment. I mean, how difficult was that to take?
It was tough. Like, it was a stupid moment, and like I remember at the time, and got news it was going to be in the papers the next day or whatever. So I had to ring my parents. Like, it was 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Says it's going to be something in the paper tomorrow, just to let you know whatever what's going on. And they weren't happy, and I wasn't happy myself. But
I suppose someone might ask, why were those words in your head? Like if there isn't a racist bone in your body, and anyone that has ever been with you and spoken to you and like been part of your life would just be like, this whole thing is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Graham Geraghty is not that person. So why would those words come out?
I don't know, and it was just kind of in one of those heated moments, kind of even though it was a warm up game, it was still kind of physical, and there was still stuff going on, and I think it was a late challenge on Kieran McManus from Offaly, and I think he took him high or something, and I kind of just pushed him, and it came out, and I apologised to him straight after the game, and I still remember his name was Daniel Capito was his name, like, and
so you realised you said it straight away.
Yeah.
So you didn't, no one actually had to say it to you. You sought him out after.
Yeah,
you just go, lad, look, I don't know what came over me there.
Yeah, and he accepted that as well, but I thought that was the end of it. But no, it's a kind of, they made a complaint, or someone made a complaint. I think it was actually the referee brought it up. And
But he overheard it, did he?
Yeah, and then I was stood down then for the first game. Normally, like, I think the fact maybe that Colm O'Rourke was over the team as well, and Meath were after winning that Ireland, probably it might have been a bigger scandal to send me home. So I was suspended for one game, but it's, I suppose, the abuse that I got then after that. Every time we played it, there was always a target on me, and I knew that, and I didn't mind that, and I never minded physicality of games, but you were always looking over your shoulder from then on in afterwards, like, what, if someone was going to get you. Like,
did that carry out through all the way to 2006?
Yeah.
Because I know you were cited for an incident in the first test in Pearse Stadium in Galway, but you could put that down as just a in-game incident that happened like 100 times in those tests. But what happens to you subsequently in the second test when you get knocked out? Was there added edge to the treatment that you were getting because of what happened back in Australia that time?
I think so, yeah, because every time I always got it. Even like before games even started, I got it, so
would they make reference to that remark?
No, they never made reference to it, like, but I always kind of knew that they knew what happened, and knew who I was and whatever, But that game in Croke Park, they had said it in the paper that they were going to get me during the week, and then coming on.
When you say that, like, they literally said, that it's just so alien.
Yeah.
So it's only 19 years ago, but Jesus, imagine someone coming out and saying that now.
So I was coming onto the pitch, and there was two guys standing waiting for me, and I was kind of, because I obviously read the paper, says I'm in for a tough time today now, whatever. And
you're a real tough cookie though. Like, is there fear there?
That's what I was going to ask.
There was a certain extent, because these guys, they don't play around, like, and they're big, they're stronger, more physical than us, and they don't do it in their own game, but when they play the international rules, the dirt comes out, and it's it's not the tackle itself. I don't mind that. It's the afterwards, after getting on the ground and digging you in, whatever. It was all off the ball stuff that was going on.
Now, the incident though that involved you, it's unfortunate in that he hasn't actually hit you. He's obviously flung you to the ground with significant force, but it's just the matter. We've all come down trying to catch a ball and whack the back of our head off the ground, and unfortunately it knocked you unconscious. But it's what's remembered. Yeah,
but the thing that happened to me, and it's their tackle, it's a wrap kind of, and my two hands were caught inside. So when he threw me to the ground, I couldn't put my hand up to protect myself, and there's only kind of looking back, then you see it kind of afterwards, pictures in the paper, and you're just lying there kind of unconscious,
not moving. I was in the stadium at the time. There was huge concern for you in those moments.
But just before that, and Paul Gavin was on the team at the time, and he was running out in front of me, and the two guys were waiting, so he just barged out through them, and he says, "Get the F out of the way," he says, and whatever. And they said to me, "You're going to get it, don't you?" And Jesus, 10 minutes later, I was gone.
I was at that game as well, and it was different level violence at it. And when you know it's coming, it says a lot about you that you're actually willing to go, I'm gonna try and take this. I've heard stories of other fellas on international rules teams and they're like, "You're coming on." No, I'm not. I'm not up.
But weren't they branded as soft in the aftermath of the first test?
Yeah, but I think the big thing for the Aussie guys was they were professional players, and that was their sport, and they were getting paid to do this, and a load of amateurs running rings around them, and they don't like that, and it's the same when you go to Australia as well. And I found they didn't really mix with us either, but I think they didn't like being beaten by amateurs. That was the big thing I got out of it.
Next question, and it's going to be uncomfortable viewing or listening for the guy to my left. 2001 All-Ireland semi-final against Kerry. Another game. I don't know why it's Kerry-Meath. I've no business being in an All-Ireland semi-final involving Kerry-Meath, but it was obviously potential to be a great game. And I remember thinking at the time, this is almost certainly the last time we'll ever see Maurice Fitz on a football field. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to go in and just watch the great man kind of say goodbye, but clearly under circumstances that he wished never happened. Very early in that first half, I just remember a sense of absolute disbelief around Croke Park, that we actually couldn't believe what we were watching. The reigning All-Ireland champions, the Kingdom, who have owned Croke Park for the last 100 years, been utterly dismantled. What was it like to play in that game?
It was weird, because we obviously played so well, but Kerry were poor that day as well. And I remember looking up the scoreboard and I said, this is not right. There's something. I'm gonna wake up now in the bed and get ready to go to the game or something. But and the crowd kind of seemed real deflated as well. It was a kind of a weird atmosphere in the place, but obviously a fantastic day for us. And any day you beat Kerry is brilliant. But we couldn't believe it. Even looking at the scoreboard and you'd be looking up the field and say, this, it's not real. It's not real.
It's over with 25 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And you're in a forward line that's being tracked by the likes of Seamus Moynihan, who's an all-time great. He was the captain the year before. Is there any talk between yourselves and the Kerry lads at points in that second half?
Not really. No, I think Amos Morris got sent off that day as well. Did he? I'm nearly sure.
Sent off late. Was it late?
It was late on, yeah. And which kind of, it was a bad day for him probably all round. But there was no usually, even when you play Kerry any other time, there's no real kind of guff out, and you're playing against Dublin or any of the northern teams, there's loads of sledging going on. But no, it was just a real flat performance from Kerry, and from the word go, you never got going that day, and it was and I learned to know how you felt then after that, because I was on the receiving end of a 21-point beating by Limerick, which was, devastating, But
players often remember the ones they lose more than the ones they win. And you played in 4 All-Ireland finals. You drew 1, won 2, and lost 1. So obviously, people are looking at this Meath team who won the All-Ireland 2 years previous, coming in to face a Galway team who'd won the All-Ireland 3 years previous. So it's two of the great teams in the Irish arena at the time, or in the GA arena at the time. And you run into a Morris or a Pádraig Joyce, who's absolutely a man possessed in that final. 10 points, 5 from play. Meath score 2 in the second half.
I think it was going into that, and there was a massive build up, and there was huge pressure on us, I think. Even though we probably thought it didn't get to us, but it was probably the worst thing in beating Kerry by 15 points. I love saying that.
The smile just came out.
But we never got going at all, really. And Pádraig Joyce only scored a point in the first half, and we had played nothing. They were all over us, and there was only, I remember going in at half time and I said, listen, there's only 2 points in, lads. We haven't played at all. We've done nothing. I think that Nigel Nestor get sent off, and Ollie Murphy broke his thumb or something, and just everything went wrong. And then Pádraig Joyce was unleashed then in the second half, and he couldn't do anything wrong. He even scored with his right foot, I think, too, with his right foot that day. But he got 9 points in the second half. He was fantastic.
When he was in full flow, he's just one of the greats, isn't he?
But and Donlan as well, that he was
serious team.
Rose Rice up and down the field, no one could touch him.
Yeah, what a team. Fallout with Colin Coyle in 2007. I saw a trailer for the new Saipan movie this week.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
And this was Meath's very own Saipan.
Yeah, and like the tough thing for me was because we were club mates and we're kind of both the same kind of person nearly, with the same character, and he'd be twice as hot-headed as me probably. But an incident happened with Stephen Shepherd, and
when you say an incident, like what?
Well, it was an in-house game, and I just vaguely remember now. Something happened, and he kind of came at me, and then I just gave him a slap, and then I gave him a couple more probably, and then. But Stephen, he was a great player as well. But he's one of those players that was kind of, he was, similar to myself as well. He'd be always kind of mouthing at you as well and in your face. But yeah, listen, I probably went a bit overboard. And then Kyle stopped the game anyway, and he says to me, "What are you at?" Like, and I says, "What do you mean?" And he says, "You can't do that." I says, "Well, I'm only defending myself." I said, "He came at me, and he was over back, and then." He said, "I said, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to go?" And I kind of put his back to the wall. He said, "If you want to go." He said, so I just walked off, and then that was it. Two thick fuckers. So
you're off the panel.
I was off the panel, and
there's a qualifier against Down that weekend coming up.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be playing any role in that.
No, and it was 6 weeks. Like it took that long to kind of.
So how were those bridges built to get you back for? Well, there's a qualifier.
I was in
against
contact.
Galway.
Yeah, I was in contact with Colin kind of, and he's like, "You can't do that." And he says, "You have to put my back to the wall now. I can't seem to be like, giving you, special treatment when not showing it to anybody else." But now I'll hold my hand, I was wrong, but I was looking at it from where he was coming from and the teams that he was involved in, the stuff that went on when he was playing, but it was a different era.
Yeah.
And, and Tommy Dowd was selected at the time as well, and so the weeks were going on, but I think a lot of pressure came from then me supporters and supporters club, and I think listen, you need to get him back, like whatever. And so I come back in. I went and apologised to Stephen Shepherd before that, like, and his family, whatever. But listen, the whole thing I think was blown up, and then it gathered legs, and then it was very hard to pull it in. Then, like, and
what's it like being just going about your daily business in that 6 week period? Because I remember even outside of the county, it's all people were talking about.
Yeah.
When's Geraghty back? Who's going to make the first move?
Yeah.
So you're just going down for a loaf of bread.
Thing, like, who was going to make the first move? Who was going to yield first? Like, and I think
there was no interview with Tommy Gorman though. That was
But yeah. So I think I met Colin then, and he said, "Listen, going to bring you back in," and it was Tommy actually, Tommy Dowd. He said, like, there's too much pressure outside. If we don't bring you back in, he says, we'll be killed, like, So I went back in then, and like, I wouldn't say everything was rosy, but it was patched up quick enough, like, but there was always kind of something there between myself and Stephen anyway,
Yeah. You come back and you play a starring role in the quarterfinal win over what was a brilliant Tyrone team at the time. So obviously the break didn't do you any harm.
Oh, yeah.
We're getting towards the end. I know you retire after that heavy defeat to Limerick that you've already referenced, and you're 35. So that's it. Graham Geraghty's done. What a career. He's won 2 All-Irelands, 2 All-Stars. We won't see him on the inter-county fields again. Only you're not done. And you come back under Banty at the age of 38 in May.
So I was playing club, and I was playing really well. And I was playing junior football, but I was playing really well. And Banty rang me and he says, "You're playing good stuff for club, Graham." And I said, "Yeah." And it never clicked on me that what he was ringing me for. And I was chatting and he says, "You know why you're ringing?" And I says, "No." He says, "I want you to come back in and I said, all right. You know, but
I'm 39. Would I give Jack a ring maybe after this?
but though it wasn't all plain sailing, because Liam Harnan was a selector and Barry Callahan was a selector, and those two guys walked away because I came back in, and that annoyed me.
But did Banty run it by them?
No,
This was a
So I
total
didn't
solo
know.
run.
Yeah, so I didn't know what was going on.
And you
at all.
didn't say to the players, didn't canvass opinion whether like you're
No.
bringing a guy in who hasn't done any pre-season, who's
Yeah. So we were playing Galway in a challenge match down in Athlone, and I was actually doing a race to Ross. So there was about 20, I'd say, ex-GA players that we were going ahead of Ross Holt. So first stage was in Dunboyne, and we were playing in the afternoon. So I went down anyway and started the race anyway. But I finished up a minute because I had to go to the game, and the lads were meeting in Trim, the Knightsbridge Hotel, and they're all in having a meeting. Next night, just like the whole room, they were already having something to eat. So I came in kind of late, and I walked in, and like you swear you were after killing someone. Like everyone,
They had no clue.
they know. They were looking around, and I sat down. Well, lads,
But did you ask Banty, like, have you broached this with the
no, I
panel?
didn't. No.
Do you think, was there a bit of naivety on your part thinking,
Probably, yeah.
I'm just going to walk in here and everything's going to be okay?
I presume they all thought I was, coming back, like
Yeah.
that everybody knew. And obviously Liam Harron then took out his sheet of paper and he read a statement that, and he says, nothing to do with you, Graham, whatever, but Seven Barry are stepping down. And I said, what do you mean nothing to do? It's everything to do with me.
Well, was it because it was you or because they hadn't been told about it?
No, it's because it wasn't because of me, but whatever way it came out, it sounded like that's like obviously you were involved in it. But I met Barry then like a couple of months after that, and he says, "This was nothing to do with you. Banty never ran at and by us. He went in a solo run. I think he'd done that kind of a lot, with different things over the few months before that, and they felt that they'd no say really what was going on. Like, so that's why they walked away.
It's fascinating. There's the podcast in the meat side pan in itself. We could do a full hour on that. Right. So you're still obviously in an unbelievable nick. You're still fighting fit. And it's just 8 years after your final game as an inter-county footballer, you're struck down by an aneurysm, serious brain hemorrhage. And it is obviously a health episode in so many cases, doesn't have a good outcome.
Yeah.
And yet here you are, you look amazing, you're full of character and life, and the same Graham Geraghty we knew when you were like breaking through as a minor. And I'm just wondering how, once you kind of got over the mental side of things and returned to your best physically, what are the lasting effects from what happened to you in terms of what you bring around on a daily basis?
Yeah, like I suppose, as I said earlier on, when you're sick, the first thing you think about is your kids. But the fact that I'm alive, I'm standing, I've nothing physically wrong with me now. That I kind of look at life different. If I need to do something, I'll go and do it. If I want to do something, I'll go. And if obviously, if you have the means to do it.
I've often said to people, the problem with perspective is that it doesn't last long enough.
Yeah.
So you're thinking to yourself, right, that's it now. I'm never going to moan about the small stuff anymore. If I'm going to say yes more often, and you might bring that persona around with you for a day or two, then you forget about it.
Like you will. Sure, listen, we all moan about everything. It's just the nature of us. But like I just live life to the full now, and.
But is that different from what you were like before you got sick?
It probably it is a little bit all right. Yeah. Before you'd be kind of saying, "Oh no, we won't do this. We won't." Now it's listen. Let's go. Let's do it. Like because life is very fragile, and we think we're going to be around for a long time. And so we all have kind of friends or family that passed away, and you'd wish you had done stuff with them, or for like the way myself and Amanda is, look, if we want to do something, we do it now, or we'll do it with the kids, or if the kids want to do something, let them go and do it. It's like within reason, I suppose.
Yeah.
But, no, it's. I wouldn't say like my life has changed totally. Obviously, we all have to go and work and do our days working, but like I try and make the best out of every moment now, even at work. I'm always, cracking jokes and having the crack and trying to make what I do. Obviously, I work in social care.
Yeah, tell us about your job, your day job.
So I work for a company called 3 Steps. So it's kind of, we look after kids from could be from 5 up to 18, and they're just displaced from their homes and whatever. So
are these kids in foster care?
No, so they live in a residential home with us. So
right.
They could be coming from foster care. They could be coming from broken homes, or from single parent families, whatever, and that can't look after them for one reason or another. So they come and live with us kind of as a family. So it's very rewarding. So then, like, we've great kids with us, and it's mainstream and disability as well. So you have kind of that aspect where you're looking after vulnerable adults as well. So
how long are you doing that now?
It'll be 10 years coming up now. Yeah.
So would there be kids in your care that you have known since they were 5 and are now well into their teens?
I suppose the youngest now I've worked with kind of was a 10-year-old, and he's still with us. Other guys that I would have probably had them from when they were like 13 up to 18, and they've all moved on. Some of them keep in contact, but you can, with social media now, you can see how they're getting on, and a lot of them have gone on and done well. The one thing you'd fear for when you have kids that are in care like that they go down the wrong path when they leave us, and thankfully they haven't. So it's always rewarding when you when you see them doing well.
Have they any knowledge of what you were in a past life?
Yeah, I remember when I started first, and obviously the staff were telling them I was coming in, and one was, "Do you think you're a hard man now, do you?" So I was just at about like 14, and there was, but there was good banter with them as well. Like, there was always, and I think that's what you bring to I suppose my work as well. I was like, you make life easier for them through humour and different things, and some of them come to the games with me now as well, and it's great,
Brilliant. Well, listen, one final question. This is one that we're always asking our listeners and our viewers to engage with us, and particularly in the YouTube comments, and this has come up several times, and we keep telling our viewers we read all of these comments because we genuinely do, and we really appreciate the level of engagement, but we never actually asked a guest this before. So who was your toughest opponent? And I'd say this is the 5 or 6 times viewers have asked us to put this to our guest. Yeah,
I suppose there's been a lot over the years. As I said, Pat Holmes kind of earlier, he was tough because he was so tight and gave you nothing. Paul Curran, obviously, for several reasons, because he was a brilliant player and actually nearly knocked all my teeth out one day. But I suppose Paddy Christie for me was one of the toughest lads I ever played against. For a full back, like, he was so clean, he was never dirty, he was always there on your shoulder getting a hand in.
He just played his football.
He played his football, yeah. And a good meat man as well, That's
what a scurrilous accusation to level at any dub.
But there was he was probably the best and toughest, probably. Obviously, then you'd Noel O'Leary then from Cork as well, who just kill you.
Yeah.
Well, he literally did try to kill you that one day. I mean, have you seen the box Noel O'Leary throws at him?
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
But actually,
you took it well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to take one.
But actually, and Noel as well, and you meet him off the pitch, and a pure gentleman. And I met his mother about 3 weeks ago down in Rathcarn. The Pelna Gaeltacha was on in Rathcarn this year, and I've met her a couple of times over. I met her in Australia because she's just a football fanatic.
Lovely woman, yeah.
But I met her in Rathcarn there a few weeks ago, and I was asked, Noel was away at a wedding, only for that he would have been there. But yeah, one of the toughest lads on the pitch, but off it like a pure gentleman. Like,
Well, I think that's something that could probably be said about you as well, Graham. Just brilliant. It's been great, hasn't it? Could have done another 3 hours.
That's the bother. They're not long enough.
Yeah, they're not. Never touched on your political career or the political career that nearly came about.
Yeah.
Look, it's always a privilege to speak to someone who's achieved so much on the field and has such a good story to tell off the field. That is the latest episode of the William Hill Square Ball podcast. So much gratitude to Graham for being so honest and so giving with his time and his brilliant storytelling abilities as well, which is probably underrated. Thanks to Darren as well for joining us again today. Hope to have Darren back in the co-host seat again very soon. Make sure you subscribe on our YouTube page at the Square Ball Pod. Leave your reviews, any questions you want us to put to guests. We're definitely trying to do that a little more often, and we really appreciate the amount of people that have been in touch over the last few weeks in particular as things get a bit more traction with the likes of Eamon McGee and the Cyril Farrell episode. If you are just listening to us on your podcast app, make sure you are subscribed. You can get more stuff off us as well on our social media pages at William Hill Ireland on both Instagram and Twitter. We're going to be back with another brilliant episode next week. Enjoy the games this weekend, and we will speak to you again very soon.